When you stop chasing, the noise begins to fade. The world, once a blur of urgency and comparison, slows down. You realize that most of what you were running after wasn't meant for you, or at least not meant to be caught that way. In the stillness, something powerful happens. You begin to see clearly. In a world that constantly urges us to move faster, reach higher, and do more, the concept of stillness can feel foreign, even wasteful. Yet it is in stillness that clarity is born. When the noise quiets and the distractions fall away, we finally begin to hear what our own inner voice has been trying to say all along. The frantic pace we often maintain isn't always fueled by purpose. More often, it's driven by fear. Fear of missing out, fear of being left behind, fear of not being enough. But when we step back, even for a moment, we allow ourselves the space to see what truly matters. Stillness is not about doing nothing, it is about intentional presence. It's not laziness or apathy, but a conscious decision to pause and realign. In that pause, we begin to notice the difference between what we truly want and what we've been conditioned to want. We start recognizing the pressure to impress, to conform, to keep chasing goals that may not even be ours. That recognition is the beginning of clarity. It's the moment we begin to ask better questions. Questions like, what is meaningful to me? Or am I living in alignment with my values? The mind, when constantly occupied, becomes like muddy water, clouded, reactive, and unable to reflect clearly. But when we allow stillness, that same mind begins to settle, and just like water left undisturbed, it becomes clear. In that clarity, insights emerge not from stress or desperation, but from wisdom and calm. Ideas flow more freely. Decisions become more thoughtful. We begin to differentiate between urgency and importance, between what serves our growth and what simply drains our energy. Clarity gained through stillness also allows us to become more attuned to the present moment. We stop living in a perpetual state of what's next, and instead begin to find richness in what is. This shift not only reduces anxiety, but enhances our ability to respond rather than react. We become more grounded, more centered, and more capable of handling challenges without being overwhelmed by them. Stillness cultivates self-awareness. It becomes a mirror that reflects back not only our strengths, but also the patterns and habits that keep us stuck. With clarity, we see where we've been acting out of fear, where we've been chasing approval, and where we've been ignoring our own needs. This awareness isn't always comfortable, but it is always liberating. Because only when we see clearly can we choose consciously. In that clear space, we begin to understand that we don't have to run to find ourselves. We only need to stop long enough to listen. What we discover isn't something new, but something that's been waiting within us all along. Direction, purpose, peace. Clarity doesn't come from the chase. It comes when we have the courage to be still long enough to remember who we are. The belief that life is a race is deeply ingrained in modern society. From an early age, people are conditioned to compete, to reach milestones faster, to achieve more, to stay ahead of others. School grades turn into job titles, salaries, and social status. Social media intensifies the illusion, offering constant comparisons that whisper, "You should be further by now." This unrelenting pressure creates a mindset where self-worth is measured by speed and external validation, not by inner fulfillment. But when we step back and examine this belief, we find that it's not rooted in truth. It's rooted in fear. There is no universal timeline that dictates when we must accomplish certain things. Success, happiness, and meaning are not bound by a deadline. The idea that we are falling behind assumes that life is a linear path with identical markers for everyone, when in reality, each person is walking a unique journey shaped by individual experiences, values, and dreams. Comparing yourself to someone else's timeline is like comparing a sunrise to a sunset. They are both beautiful, but they unfold at their own time. Letting go of the race mind That doesn't mean abandoning ambition or progress. It means redefining what progress actually looks like. It means choosing to grow at your own pace in your own way, according to your own purpose. Some people find their calling early in life. Others discover it later, after exploring, failing, and learning. Neither path is better, it's simply different, and honoring that difference is a powerful act of self-respect. When you realize there is no race, a weight begins to lift. The urgency to prove yourself lessens, and in its place, you begin to make decisions from a place of authenticity rather than insecurity. You stop choosing paths just because they seem impressive or fast. Instead, you begin to choose what feels right, what aligns with your deeper values. This shift leads to a more sustainable, fulfilling kind of success, one that isn't measured in trophies or titles, but in peace of mind, meaningful relationships, and personal growth. It also opens the door to empathy. When you no longer see others as competitors, you can truly celebrate their wins. You stop seeing their progress as a threat to your own. Their success becomes evidence of what's possible, not a reason to feel small. You learn to walk alongside others, not ahead or behind. Life becomes less about winning and more about evolving. The truth is, there is no fixed destination. Life isn't about arriving. It's about being fully present for the journey. And when you stop running a race that was never real to begin with, you start moving in harmony with your own rhythm. That rhythm is quieter, but it's truer. It leads you not to where others think you should be, but to where you're meant to be. And in that space, there's no pressure, only progress. Not fast, not slow. Just right. In a world that constantly pushes us to do more, achieve more, and pursue the next goal, it's easy to lose sight of the power of simply being present. The relentless chase for success, recognition, or external validation often leaves us disconnected from the very moments that hold the most value. When we're constantly in pursuit of something, whether it's a career milestone, a material possession, or an idea of the perfect life, we can become so focused on what we don't have or where we're headed that we forget to appreciate what's right in front of us. True fulfillment and peace don't come from a never-ending list of things to check off. They come from being deeply engaged in the present moment. When you shift your focus from the pursuit of an external goal to the awareness of the present, everything begins to change. You start noticing the richness of life that exists right now, the beauty of a quiet afternoon, the sound of laughter with a loved one, the small victories that often go unnoticed. In these moments, you realize that you don't need to chase anything to feel whole. The pursuit mindset is driven by a belief that happiness or success is something to be acquired, that once you have enough or achieve enough, you'll finally feel complete. But the truth is, once you get caught in that cycle, the goalpost always shifts. There's always another milestone to reach, another rung on the ladder to climb. This pursuit often keeps us locked in a constant state of striving, always thinking that happiness is somewhere just beyond our grasp. But when you begin to value presence over pursuit, you learn that happiness isn't something you attain. It's something you experience right here and right now. Being present isn't about abandoning your dreams or ambitions. It's about finding peace in the journey, not just the destination. It's about letting go of the constant urgency and allowing yourself to enjoy where you are and who you are becoming along the way. When you stop chasing after the next thing, you allow yourself to truly live in the moment, free from the anxiety of what comes next. You no longer measure your worth by what you've achieved or how far you've climbed, but by who you are in the present. Presence also transforms how you interact with others. When you're not constantly rushing to the next task, you become more attentive, more compassionate, and more connected to those around you. You listen deeply, not with the intention of responding, but with the intention of truly understanding. You begin to recognize that the quality of your relationships is more important than the quantity of things you can accumulate. Presence allows you to form deeper bonds, to be fully there for others, and to be seen and heard in return. When you make the shift from pursuit to presence, You embrace the idea that life isn't something to be raced through, but something to be experienced. The richness of life lies not in the achievements we accumulate, but in the simple act of being present with ourselves and others. By embracing the now, we find a sense of peace and fulfillment that no external pursuit can offer. We realize that, in this moment, we already have everything we need. When we think of achieving our goals or making meaningful changes in our lives, it's easy to fall into the trap of believing that everything must be forced or earned through sheer effort and struggle. We're taught that success is only for those who fight for it, those who push through barriers, and those who never stop striving. This mindset often leads us to exert more energy than necessary, trying to control outcomes, manipulate situations, or bend circumstances to our will. The problem is, the more we force, the more we may push away what we truly desire. The concept of attraction over force is about recognizing that life doesn't always have to be a battle. When we allow things to come to us naturally, we make space for the right opportunities, people, and circumstances to flow into our lives without having to chase them down. It's the idea that when we align ourselves with our true values, goals, and purpose, things will begin to gravitate toward us. Instead of trying to control every aspect, we learn to trust the process and surrender to the unfolding of our journey. Attraction comes from a place of inner alignment. It's the magnetic pull that draws what is meant for us into our lives when we focus on being authentic, confident, and grounded in who we are. When we stop forcing things to happen, we give the universe or life space to bring us exactly what we need, not necessarily what we think we want, but what truly aligns with our highest good. This shift allows us to work with the flow of life rather than against it, and we start to realize that we don't need to fight for every opportunity. We just need to be open to receiving them. The act of forcing often comes from a place of fear. Fear of failure, fear of missing out, or fear of not being enough. This fear-driven energy can cloud our judgment and make us act out of desperation rather than wisdom. It can cause us to make rushed decisions or pursue paths that aren't aligned with who we truly are. In contrast, attraction comes from a place of abundance and trust. When we believe that the right things are on their way to us, we no longer feel the need to grasp or chase after them. We understand that what is meant for us will find us when the time is right, and that trust allows us to let go of the need for control. Attraction over force fosters a mindset of patience and faith. We stop measuring success by how quickly we can achieve something or by how many obstacles we can overcome. Instead, we measure success by how well we align ourselves with our values, how much we trust our own path, and how deeply we are connected to what matters most. This shift allows for a more peaceful, sustainable approach to life. We become less attached to specific outcomes, knowing that the right things will come into our lives in their own time. By embracing attraction over force, we shift from a life of tension and struggle to one of flow and ease. It's not about doing less, but about doing things from a place of intention, clarity, and trust. The energy we put out into the world is what we attract back, and when we stop forcing, we create space for the right opportunities to find us naturally. We begin to move through life with a sense of ease and confidence, trusting that what is meant for us will come, effortlessly and with purpose. In a world where unpredictability is often viewed as a threat, the natural response is to seek control. We are conditioned to believe that if we manage every detail, anticipate every outcome, and hold tightly to the reins of life, we can ensure our success and safety. Control brings a sense of security and order, and for many, it feels like the only way to navigate the complexities of life. But the truth is, this desire for control can be limiting and ultimately exhausting. It keeps us locked in a cycle of trying to force outcomes, rather than allowing life to unfold as it is meant to. Trust, on the other hand, invites us to let go of the need for control and embrace the unknown. It requires a deep belief that things will work out, not because we have planned every step, but because we are aligned with the right intentions and we are open to what comes our way. Trust doesn't mean passivity or complacency. It means accepting that there are forces beyond our control, and that's okay. It means surrendering to the flow of life, knowing that not every outcome is ours to dictate. Trust is about having faith that, even when we can't see the path ahead, everything will unfold as it should. When we choose trust over control, we begin to move through life with a sense of peace rather than anxiety. The pressure to micromanage every situation fades, and we no longer feel compelled to plan every minute detail in an attempt to guard against failure or disappointment. Instead, we trust that each moment is exactly what it needs to be, even if it doesn't look the way we expected. This shift allows us to release the grip we have on outcomes and focus instead on showing up fully, present, and engaged, regardless of what happens. It's an understanding that, while we can influence events, we cannot control everything, and that is not only acceptable, but liberating. Control often arises from a fear of uncertainty, fear of making a wrong decision, fear of facing rejection, fear of failing. This fear-driven mindset keeps us stuck in patterns of overthinking and overdoing. We second-guess ourselves, we hesitate, and we create more resistance than necessary. In contrast, trust allows us to act from a place of clarity and confidence. Trust helps us let go of the fear of being wrong or failing, and instead makes room for growth, experimentation, and learning. We trust that even mistakes and setbacks are part of the journey, offering valuable lessons that will lead us to a greater understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Trust also empowers us to rely on others. When we stop trying to control every outcome, we create space for collaboration, for partnership, and for support. Trusting in ourselves and in the people around us fosters stronger, more authentic relationships. It allows us to recognize that we don't have to shoulder the weight of the world alone, that we can lean on others and invite help when needed. When we let go of control, we make room for shared growth, shared learning, and shared success. The beauty of trust over control is that it encourages a life that is less about forcing and more about allowing. It's about releasing the need to manipulate circumstances and instead flowing with the natural rhythm of life. When we trust, we give ourselves permission to step into the unknown, to be vulnerable, and to embrace life's uncertainties with an open heart. Through trust, we find freedom, knowing that we are always supported, and that the journey itself, not just the destination, holds the greatest reward. In a society that often measures success by external achievements, wealth, recognition, status, it's easy to believe that fulfillment must come from something outside of ourselves. We are led to believe that once we reach certain milestones, such as landing a dream job, owning a house, or gaining approval from others, we will finally feel complete. But this mindset, while motivating in some ways, creates an endless pursuit, a never-ending chase for something that always seems just out of reach. True fulfillment, however, is not something that can be obtained from the outside. It is something that comes from within, from a deep connection to who we are and what we truly value. Fulfillment from within starts with self-awareness, the ability to recognize and honor our true desires, not the ones that society, family, or peers impose on us. It is about learning to listen to our inner voice, the one that speaks not from external expectations, but from our heart, our values, and our sense of purpose. The journey to fulfillment is not about accumulating external markers of success, but about cultivating a sense of peace and contentment that comes from being aligned with our authentic self. When we understand who we truly are, without the filters of comparison or societal pressure, we begin to experience a deeper sense of satisfaction in life. This kind of fulfillment is quiet. It's not flashy or loud, but it is steady and unshakable. When we stop seeking validation from others or measuring our worth based on external achievements, we begin to recognize the beauty of simply being. We realize that fulfillment isn't a destination to reach, but a state of being that we can cultivate at any moment. It comes from knowing that we are enough, just as we are. It is the peace that arises when we accept ourselves fully, with all our strengths and imperfections. This internal sense of fulfillment is not dependent on anyone else's approval or on any particular outcome. It is simply rooted in the understanding that we are worthy and complete, regardless of external circumstances. The process of finding fulfillment within also involves embracing the present moment. So often, we look ahead, thinking that happiness will come when we achieve a future goal. But fulfillment from within is about grounding ourselves in the now. It's about appreciating the small, simple moments, the way the sun feels on our skin, a genuine conversation with a friend, or the satisfaction of completing a task with intention. These moments, though fleeting, are what make up a fulfilling life. When we stop waiting for a distant arrival, we begin to find contentment in what already is. Fulfillment from within doesn't require constant action or achievement. It invites us to pause, to reflect, and to simply be. We learn to let go of the need for constant productivity and embrace the value of rest, stillness, and self-care. In this space, we reconnect with ourselves and rediscover the things that truly bring us joy, whether that's creativity, nature, learning, or relationships. We understand that our worth isn't tied to what we do, but to who we are. Fulfillment from within is a shift in perspective. It's about turning inward for validation and contentment, instead of seeking it from the outside world. It's about realizing that happiness doesn't come from what we acquire or accomplish, but from how we feel about ourselves and the life we create. It's about embracing the journey, trusting in the process, and finding peace in knowing that we are whole and complete, right here, right now. The true essence of a fulfilling life doesn't lie in the constant pursuit of external achievements or in the relentless chase for more. It resides within us, in our ability to stop, to be present, to trust the flow of life, and to recognize that we are already enough. When we shift our focus from chasing to living authentically, from forcing to allowing, from seeking external validation to nurturing our internal sense of worth, we unlock a deeper sense of peace and satisfaction. Life becomes less about reaching for something outside ourselves, and more about embracing the moments that make us who we are. Fulfillment is not a distant destination, but a way of being rooted in self-awareness, trust, and presence. Once we realize this, we step into a life where we no longer feel the need to chase, but instead, we live fully, embracing the beauty and richness that is already around us.